Hello and welcome to the Drumwell Podcast, the podcast where we look at what drummers do away from the kit in order to do their best behind the kit. I'm your host, Todd Hansen, and welcome to the show. This is the very first episode. I'm very excited. I'm going to give you a little background. Why this podcast? Well, a couple of years ago, I started having a bit of back pain, which turned out to be a degenerative disc in my L5-S1, which is where your lumbar spine meets your sacrum. So the disc had degenerated and it was causing some inflammation and a bit of pain. And as that worsened, I got to the point where I was wondering if I could still play drums. Because, after a gig, it would be really sore, it'd be really hard to pack up. And obviously I had to do a lot of things to work through that. And I just thought, wow, this has been a real journey, because I'm obviously on the other side of it now. I've done stuff, and we will dive into this throughout this episode and probably throughout the podcast. But at this stage, I thought, well, look, I know a lot of drummers. I've got a lot of friends who are professional drummers who do this. So, hey, maybe I could spread the word, tell people how I've gotten through things, talk to other drummers about their various injuries, but also I just want to talk about, what drummers do to keep their body in tip-top prime shape to play what we play, because obviously it's such a very physical instrument, we're using all limbs at a time, especially in heavy metal, we're playing at crazy speeds, really pushing the limits, especially in the last 10, 20 years, really pushing the limits of what, drumming is now compared to what it was. Just how do we keep our bodies in that shape? So a little bit of background about me. I'm Todd Hansen. I am the drummer for King Parrot and FUC. I've been with King Parrot now for 10 years. I've been with FUC for, it'll be about 14 this year. I've played in a lot of different bands over the years. I've been playing drums in bands since 2000. But I actually started out on the piano around age 4 or 5. Piano is such a great instrument. It gives you rhythm, it gives you melody, teaches you to read music. So I did that one for about 10 years, from about age 4 or 5 till about age 14, 15. Throughout primary school, in grade 5, I started to play the drums because you could actually learn an instrument through the school. So I'd always been interested in drums. 1991, I had my first drum lesson. So that was a weekly thing. It was basically learning, rudiments and marching beats. And it was basically to, I had to join the school orchestra. I think the first year I didn't have to. Then sort of year 6, year 7, the senior years of primary school back then, you had to join the school orchestra, and that's basically like a snare drum, a crash cymbal, rototoms, the big bass drum, everyone's it's almost like a split up kit, and everyone plays their parts. But I wasn't super into that, and by the time I got to high school, so different. You're sort of moving between classes. I was forgetting what time and what day my drum lessons were because they all changed. So I missed a lot of that at the start of 1994, the start of year 8. And gradually I just, got into the swing of it and started doing lessons. And I got called up to the office in grade 9, and they said, why weren't you in the school orchestra last year? And I sort of said, oh, look, I missed a lot of my lessons. I didn't actually know about the orchestra. And they said, well, you have to be in the orchestra to play an instrument in our school. And I said, okay, fine, I won't play an instrument then. So I quit. In hindsight, probably might know a bit more, but don't regret it. I mean, about a year later, I got interested in the guitar, so I started playing guitar with a few mates. We'd be playing guitar every day. So I've always done something musical. I've played an instrument since I was about 4 years old and really had very limited time off. Playing guitar, though, I can play a bit. I wouldn't say I'm a shredder or anything, but I was playing a little bit. I tried to form my own bands. I was really into like punk and grunge when I was in high school. So I was trying to be Nirvana. Tried to form my own band. Drummers at the time were very limited, as they still are now, as I found out later in life. So I had a few jams with some drummers, and then it got to a point where I was sort of like, gee, I can actually play drums. And by this time, I had a drum kit as well. I'd sort of used my high school job to buy guitars and a drum set and a bass guitar. So I had a whole band worth of instruments at my disposal. And I'd been jamming with some guys, and I'm like, gee, I reckon I could probably find a guitarist who was way better than me, and I could probably play the drums. And so, that's sort of how I started my first originals band, which we started in 2000. It was called Headcase, which was a bunch of friends from school. They were a grade below me, but a mate of mine actually played drums for them. And he moved overseas. He's a traveller. He still lives overseas. He started travelling and left that band, and I sort of was at a party with those guys, and they needed a drummer, and I said, well, look, I have a kit. Haven't played it much, but I'm willing to have a jam. And I guess the rest is history. I sort of really got into it from there. So my actual first gig, I played at a mate's 21st birthday. I played my first gig on drums. Played at a mate's 21st birthday, and we just did a whole bunch of cover songs. So my first gig was actually a covers gig. But I'd also started jamming with the Headcase guys, and we were writing original stuff. And over the years, I found that my background with playing various instruments had really helped with writing original material. And so that was really great. Just really got into it. I was heavily influenced by Joey Jordison. I loved Dave Grohl's drumming. And then sort of found so many more once I really dived into the whole death metal side of things, like, Flo Mornia, George Callias, Gene Hoglan. There's just so many more really good influences that really helped my drumming. So that's a little background on me. And now I'm just basically going to ask, I've got a few talking points, and I'm just going to go through those. And you'll notice these talking points come up as this podcast progresses, because these are the talking points I think work. So, what do I do away from the kit? Diet and exercise, both very important. Exercise, I do that every day. So with my back, my exercise program has changed over the years, especially now with my back. I do a lot of posterior chain, which is basically sort of in between your shoulders down to the back of your knees. So I do a lot of that, like strengthening that, because that builds capacity around my degenerative disc, which helps me to, get through the day. It's really helped take away a lot of that pain and inflammation. So I do a lot of stuff around that now. But really a lot of weights, a lot of just sort of core strengthening stuff, balance type stuff. because obviously we're sitting on a drum stool balancing to play. So that's really important. Good center of gravity. And also diet. I've changed up my diet quite a bit, especially in the last 2 years with the result of this degenerative disc. I try to eat, especially in the morning, I try to eat low or no sugar. So because sugar will give you a sugar rush in the morning, and it also contributes to inflammation. So I try to eat stuff that's not going to cause me any inflammation, especially around those two L5S1 and all that sort of stuff. So diet and exercise, very important. Now, the reason I have to exercise in that way is because I'm going to dive into this a little bit further. In 2022, 2021 it was, I was laying turf. And laying turf all day, and it's heavy stuff, it's hard work. By the end of the day, my back was just killing me. Now, I'd had this little niggly back pain for a few years. You just think, I'm getting a bit older, I'm starting to get a few aches and pains. You don't think too much of it. So I'd had this little niggly back pain. Now, after laying the turf, it went from a niggle to like a really bad pain. And that night, and this is like a full day of wheelbarrowing dirt, laying grass. It was a heavy day. But after that, I found that my back went into spasms that night, which had never happened. And it wasn't comfortable. It wasn't very nice. But, it was like, okay, I've had a big day of working. But that was sort of the first point that happened. And then it started getting more frequent. And then it got almost to be a daily thing. So I'd go to work. By the time I got home, my back was ready to spasm. And so I thought, well, I need to do something about this. I really need to fix this. So, I went to my GP. I went and, told her what was up. Went and got an MRI. And then she also referred me to a neurosurgeon who obviously specialised in the spine and the back and stuff. And his waiting list was huge. His name's Dr. Johnson. I had to wait for about 3 months to actually get an appointment with him. So it was August 2021 I first had a spasm. It was August 2022 that I finally got to talk to Dr. Johnson. And I was a bit skeptical, to be honest. I was thinking, he's just going to want to do some sort of surgery, or he's just going to want to put inject some cortisol in there, or some kind of steroid or something. And I didn't really want foreign bodies to take away the pain. I thought, well, there's got to be a better way. I mean, I was doing exercises. I was doing a lot of core work and a lot of back stuff. Now, where I was going wrong was I was doing a lot of twisting, which is a big no-no. So I found out later. So Dr. Johnson actually referred me to a program called the Functional Movement Training. Well, it was at the Functional Movement Training Center, and it was a functional movement program. Basically a rehab program for my back, which went for 2 months, twice a week. And they basically tell you, stop doing everything you're doing, which I was also a little bit like, bit annoyed about, because I was very active, exercising. But they said, stop doing everything you're doing and start again. So they really just teach you how to move with the mechanics of your body, the way it should work. So really, what my back, for lack of a better word, I'll call it an injury, but it's not really an injury. It's a really actually a natural thing. 80% of people in the world have a degenerative disc disease, I suppose.